Dating you is basically charity work. You should be thanking me. That's what she announced to her friends while mocking me at dinner. Then the waitress dropped the fortune cookie I'd prepared. When they read it, her fake crown fell instantly. I didn't need to say a word. So, I just went through the wildest breakup I could have ever imagined. Thought I was dating someone who was the one, but turns out she was more into clout, appearances, and sneaking around than actually being real. I'm not the type to scream or throw scenes, so I handled it my way. Quiet, calculated, and let's just say she gave me the stage and I used it. Alright, so let me just dump this here before I lose my mind. My name is Zach, 28 male, and I work as a nurse. Not glamorous, not something you'll see in some Netflix show, but it's a real job. Long shifts, tired feet, patients that range from sweet old ladies to people screaming at you because their pain meds are late. I like it though. It's solid. I get home exhausted, yeah, but I can sleep knowing I did something useful. Now my ex-girlfriend, her name's Lexi, 26, female, works as a secretary at an entertainment agency. And if you ask her, she basically runs the place. If you ask me, she answers phones and books conference rooms. But ever since she started working there, she's been acting like she's climbing the celebrity ladder herself. When we first met, she wasn't like that. We met through a mutual friend. She was chill, funny, loved pizza nights and trashy TV. For the first year or so, things were actually good. Then her job started changing her. Or maybe she was always like this and the job just gave her an excuse. Either way, it didn't take long before the small digs started. At first, it was playful, like, haha, you're still driving that Mitsubishi? So reliable. She'd say it with that little fake giggle, but it wasn't really a joke. Then it turned into, you're not actually going to wear that out, right? And she'd make this face like my cargo pants personally offended her. I brushed it off in the beginning because I'm not a sensitive guy. You want to clown me for looking like I just got off a shift? Fine, I probably do. But after a while, it stopped being jokes. It turned into straight-up embarrassment. She didn't like me showing up in my scrubs if she had people over. She'd side-eye my sneakers. She'd make comments about how some of her coworkers' boyfriends were so stylish or so ambitious. Subtle, but not really. Thing is, I'm not insecure. I know who I am. I don't need designer clothes or a sports car to feel like a man. I've got a career. I'm good at it. And I stand on my own 2 feet. But when your girlfriend starts acting like you're dragging down her image, that's when you notice. And Lexi, she cared about image way too much. The second she got around her new work friends, it was like I didn't exist unless I was playing into her version of status. She dragged me along to these dinners with her flashy coworkers. And the whole time it felt like I was on display, like she was trying to prove she could upgrade me. Another time we're getting ready to go out and she looks me up and down and says, Zach, you should really start dressing nicer. People notice these things. I just laughed and told her, don't worry. I'll iron my scrubs before I go save lives next time. She didn't laugh, but her friend who overheard did. That's kind of the thing. I always had comebacks because I refused to just stand there and take shots. But the fact that I even had to clap back that often tells you everything. The irony is Lexi wasn't some big deal either. She was basically the office assistant who got coffee for people, but she talked like she was sitting at the table making million-dollar deals. She'd name-drop her boss's clients like she was hanging out with them. Oh, I can't believe what so-and-so said in the meeting today. He's so dramatic. I'd be like, you took notes while he talked, Lexi. You weren't in the meeting making decisions. She hated when I pointed stuff like that out. But come on, someone had to. She was starting to live in her own little delusional bubble. And I wasn't about to nod along and pretend she was suddenly Hollywood royalty because she knew how to book a conference call. What stung wasn't the fake status stuff though. It was the way she started talking to me. Like she was doing me a favor just by being around. Like she was leveling up in life, and I was supposed to keep up or get left behind. There was one night, I'll never forget it. We were with some of her coworkers at a lounge and one of them said, Lexi, your boyfriend's a nurse? That's actually sweet. And she smirked and said, yeah, he's stable. The way she said it, like stable was code for boring. Like she was apologizing for me. I laughed it off in the moment, cracked a joke about being the guy you want around if they start choking on their overpriced sushi. But deep down, I clocked it. That was the first time she made me feel like she was embarrassed to even admit what I do. And once that line gets crossed, it never goes back. After that night where Lexi basically downgraded me to stable, like I was some boring lawn chair you keep around just in case, I started paying attention differently. Before, I'd roast her when she threw little jabs and move on.
But this was different. It wasn't playful.
It wasn't her trying to be funny. It was her saying, "You're not enough for me," without spelling it out. And when you're with someone like Lexi, you start realizing fast that the disrespect never stays small. It grows. The working late excuse became her new favorite line. She'd leave the house at 8:30 p.m. in full glam and tell me she had to finish some emails, right? Because every office I know has clients just dying to meet secretaries after dinner. I'd lean on the doorframe, arms crossed, and watch her walk out in heels. Printer's going to be real impressed tonight.
She'd throw me a fake smile over her shoulder. Don't be jealous, Zach.
Some of us have professional lives.
Sure, Lexi.
Professional life at a copier. Her lies weren't even good. One Thursday, she said she had to prep conference material late. She came back hours later with lipstick smudged and smelling like a perfume sample aisle. I didn't ask where she'd been. I didn't need to. I just said, "Conference must have been exhausting," and smiled like I believed her. The way she froze for half a second told me everything. And then the smoking gun dropped into my lap without me even looking for it. One Sunday night, we're on the couch. She's half asleep, some rom-com playing on her iPad. She passes out mid-movie, drooling on a pillow. I go to plug in her iPad so the battery doesn't die. Screen lights up and boom, there it is.
Tinder notification.
Not some old leftover app either.
A live notification. New match. And right after, another one.
"Kyle sent you a message." I swear I laughed out loud. Couldn't help it because this whole time she thought she was slick, giving me those side eyes when my shirt wasn't ironed, acting like she was too good for me. And here she was, sloppy enough to let her side piece slide into her iPad while she's passed out next to me. I didn't wake her up, didn't shove it in her face, didn't go on a speech about betrayal. That's what she wanted. She wanted me to react so she could flip it on me. "You're paranoid, Zach. You're insecure. Why are you snooping?" Nah, not giving her that card. I just grabbed my phone, snapped a picture of the screen, and put the iPad back exactly where it was. She shifted a little, mumbled something in her sleep, completely unaware I just got the receipts. That's when everything clicked. The late nights, the dressing up, the fake little digs about me being boring. All of it tied back to this Kyle clown. And the funniest part, she wasn't even careful. Kyle was the same guy she mentioned in passing before. Kyle has great taste. Kyle's so good at networking. I'd brushed it off back then because whatever, coworkers exist. But the Tinder notification sealed it. This wasn't a coworker. This was her plan B while she was still sitting on my couch acting like she was too good for me. So yeah, I knew 100% she was cheating. And here's where most guys go wrong.
They blow up. They confront. They scream.
They demand answers. And all that does is hand her the chance to spin it. "You're crazy. You don't trust me. You're insecure."
I've seen it happen. Not me.
I wasn't about to give her that out. I decided right then that I wasn't going to catch her in private.
Too easy for her to lie.
Too easy for her to turn it into a fight and cry her way back into control.
No.
If Lexi wanted to keep playing this image game, then I was going to end it in the exact arena she cared about most, public. Because Lexi loved an audience. Every time she belittled me, it wasn't at home. It was in front of her friends, her coworkers, her little fake circle. She needed the validation. She needed to look superior. And that right there, that was her weakness.
So, I stayed calm.
I kept being stable Zach, the guy who didn't rock the boat, didn't accuse, didn't demand.
She thought I was clueless.
She thought she was pulling this master plan behind my back. Meanwhile, I was watching her dig her own grave with every fake excuse, every snide comment, every late-night conference that was really a date with Kyle. And me, I was biding my time, waiting for the perfect moment to flip the entire script in front of everyone she wanted to impress. See, Lexi thought she was leveling up by sneaking around with Kyle. What she didn't realize was that she was handing me the perfect ammo. Because when the time came, I wasn't just going to end things. I was going to make sure she felt the same humiliation she'd been trying to dish out to me for months. And trust me, it was going to be brutal. The perfect setup basically fell in my lap. 2 days after the whole iPad Tinder incident, Lexi comes bouncing into the living room, grinning like she just got promoted to CEO. "So," she says, "we're going to dinner Friday night. My friends want to meet you properly." Her friends, meaning those two clones from her office, Janelle and Kelsey. They're the type who can't finish a meal without taking 40 photos of it, tagging every brand in their captions like they're hoping Gucci will mail them a sponsorship. I just nodded, said sure, and went back to what I was doing. But inside, I was already smiling. This was it, the stage I'd been waiting for. She thought she was dragging me out so she could parade me around like some charity project she polished up. She didn't realize I'd already lined up the ending to her little performance. Of course, Lexi couldn't just leave it at that. She immediately switched into fashion police mode. And Zach, don't wear those sneakers or those cargo pants. This is an upscale place.
People notice.
I leaned back, gave her the smirk she hates. Yeah, wouldn't want the valet guys thinking I'm not an Instagram model. She sighed, rolled her eyes.
I'm serious.
I bought you that button-down last month.
Wear that.
Please don't embarrass me.
Relax.
I'll try not to trip on the red carpet. She pouted, flipped her hair, muttered something about me not taking things seriously. That's Lexi in a nutshell. She cared more about what strangers thought than what was actually real.
Friday comes.
She's dolled up like she's going to a premiere, not dinner. Tight dress, jewelry she probably couldn't afford without credit. I throw on the shirt she asked for, mostly because I wanted to see her squirm when I still outshined her attitude just by being calm. We pull up to this overpriced Asian fusion spot. Inside, her friends are already seated, giggling loud enough to echo across the restaurant. They're arguing about whether some guy they know actually bought his Gucci belt or just got a fake one. Real high-level conversation. Before we sit down, I spot the waitress near the bar. Cute, sharp-eyed, the type who's definitely overheard 1,000 fake conversations like this. I excuse myself from the table, saying I need to use the bathroom. Then I pull the waitress aside quickly. Hey, random favor, I say low so Lexi doesn't notice. Could you bring one special fortune cookie with dessert later?
Just one.
I'll cover whatever you want. She gives me this raised eyebrow. That's oddly specific.
I shrug.
So is my girlfriend cheating on me? Trust me, it'll make sense. She tilts her head, looks over at Lexi, who's already laughing too loud and flipping her hair like she's on reality TV. Then the waitress smirks. All right, I'll do it. I slipped a folded note to the waitress. This goes in her cookie, I whispered. She winked and tucked it away without missing a beat. Done. Stage set. I go back. Right away, Lexi goes into hostess mode. She's telling her friends about me like she's doing damage control. So, Zach's a nurse, she says in that tone people use when they're explaining why they drive a used car instead of leasing a BMW.
I lean forward, grin at the table.
Yeah, I save lives.
Boring, I know.
Kelsey gasps a little like I just told her I donate kidneys on weekends. That's actually sweet.
Lexi cuts in fast. Sweet, yeah, stable.
He's very grounded. I sip my water, stare at her, and go, translation, I don't need to fake a lifestyle for Instagram.
Her friends chuckle.
Lexi's jaw tightens for half a second. Then she pastes on her smile again. 1-0. Dinner rolls on. Her friends gossip about men, status, who's dating who in the office. It's like listening to a live podcast about shallow nonsense. I pick at my overpriced salmon, trying not to laugh at how serious they take themselves. Every time Lexi tries to sneak in a dig, I send it right back. She goes, Zach doesn't really get social media, he barely posts.
I shrug.
Yeah, I'm usually too busy actually working to think about filters. She laughs too loud like she's brushing it off, then says, you could at least try.
People notice presence.
They judge.
I smirk.
Yeah, and people also judge who you sneak around with. Guess everyone's flawed. Her eyes widen just a bit. Then she quickly laughs like I'm joking, but she knows I'm not. And that's the best part. I can roast her to her face in front of her friends, and she can't even fight back without exposing herself.
Her friends crack up.
Lexi's fake laugh is back, but she's sweating now. Every time she tries to elevate herself, I undercut her calmly, casually with a smirk. I wasn't raising my voice. I wasn't bitter. That's what made it worse for her. I was enjoying myself. By the time we're finishing the entree, I can see her getting uncomfortable. She keeps fiddling with her wineglass, shifting in her chair, laughing a beat too late at her friend's stories. She wanted this night to be about her shining, showing off her polished boyfriend. Instead, she was getting roasted politely in front of her own entourage. And dessert, that's when the real show would start. The waitress had already given me the look earlier.
She was ready.
Lexi had no clue that the very people she wanted to impress were about to watch her whole fake little image collapse right in front of them. And me, I was just sitting there smiling, waiting for the fortune cookie to arrive. Lexi, on the other hand, couldn't help herself.
You know the type.
Someone who's so obsessed with being the center of attention, they'll keep poking even when everyone else can see they're losing.
That was her.
She wanted the whole table laughing at me, nodding along with her, proving she was above me. Problem for her was every jab she threw, I was catching and tossing back twice as sharp. She started with something light. "Zach doesn't really get fashion," she announced, smirking like she was letting her friends in on some inside joke. If it were up to him, he'd wear scrubs everywhere.
I didn't even flinch. I leaned forward, calm as ever.
Yeah, and funny thing about that, nobody in the hospital cares what brand I'm wearing while I'm keeping their family members alive.
Her friends laughed.
Not polite giggles, actual laughs. One of them even said, "Okay, fair," under her breath. Lexi's smile stayed on her face, but I saw her eyes narrow for half a second.
That one stung. A little later, she tried again.
"He's not really a social guy. I usually have to drag him out. Left to his own devices, he'd probably just stay home." I leaned back in my chair, relaxed, sipping water like I had all the time in the world.
True.
I'd rather spend my nights actually enjoying life than pretending to care about some guy's belt buckle at a table like this.
That one landed hard.
Janelle covered her mouth, stifling a laugh, and Kelsey just raised her brows at Lexi like, "You walked into that one." Lexi's smile twitched, but she wasn't done. She was getting desperate now. She tried to rope her friends in, asking them leading questions about their boyfriend's ambition or style, hoping they'd agree she had the project boyfriend she was fixing up. They nodded along politely, but I could tell they were watching me more than her, waiting to see if I'd say something else. And then she decided to go for the kill shot. I knew it was coming the moment she leaned forward, glass of wine in hand, that smug little smirk creeping onto her face. She wanted her big laugh, her big moment to put me in my place. "Honestly," she said, drawing it out so the whole table was listening, "dating Zach is basically charity work.
I mean, look at him. I keep him humble.
He should be thanking me. No one even flirts with him." The table went dead silent for a beat. She was waiting for the giggles, waiting for her friends to join in, waiting for me to shrink back like she just clowned me beyond recovery. Instead, I leaned forward, locked eyes with her, and smiled. "Charity work?" I said, nice and slow. "Lexi, you are the charity. Everybody knows it."
Her friends' jaws dropped.
Then one of them burst out laughing. Not a polite laugh, an ugly real laugh she tried to cover with her hand. The other one shook her head, grinning like she just witnessed a live knockout.
Lexi froze.
That fake superior mask she always wore slid right off. She looked stunned, like it had never occurred to her that I might clap back harder than she could dish out. I sat back in my chair, calm as can be, like I hadn't just dropped the line of the night. "But hey," I added, casual as hell, "if it makes you feel better thinking you're doing me a favor, go ahead. Whatever helps you sleep at night." That cracked the table. Both of her friends lost it laughing. Lexi forced this brittle laugh like she was in on the joke, but her face was red. She tried to wave it off, sip her wine, act unbothered, but she couldn't hide it. She was rattled. The rest of dinner, she barely spoke. By the time the waitress came around with dessert, Lexi was practically silent. She was stabbing at her empty plate with her fork, pretending to listen to her friends' gossip about some guy from work. She thought she just had to survive the night. Then she'd scold me in the car for embarrassing her. She thought the roast was the worst of it. But me, I was just sitting back waiting because the real show hadn't even started. Across the room, the waitress caught my eye and gave me the slightest nod.
Dessert was coming.
And inside that fortune cookie was the one thing Lexi couldn't laugh off.
Couldn't spin.
Couldn't talk her way out of. She wanted an audience.
She got one.
And they were about to watch her whole little image implode in real time. The waitress came back with dessert, carrying the plate like it was just another night on the job. But she glanced at me quick. That little nod that told me the plan was locked in. She set down 4 fortune cookies, one in front of each of us. Normal on the outside, harmless looking, but I knew one of them wasn't.
Lexi snatched hers first. Of course she did.
She loved being the one to crack a joke, make some fake manifesting speech about how her future was all about success. She cracked her cookie, and right underneath was a folded slip of paper. She pulled it out, unfolded it, and then her whole face just fell apart. It was beautiful. She went pale, then red, then pale again, like her brain was scrambling for a way out.
She didn't laugh. She didn't read it.
She just stared at the words like they were a weapon aimed at her. "What's it say?" Janelle asked, leaning in. Lexi's hands shot down, trying to shove the slip into her lap. "It's nothing, just some dumb thing."
Wrong move.
The second she hit it, her friends perked up like sharks smelling blood. Kelsey snatched it from her hand before she could stuff it in her purse.
Don't be dramatic. It's just a fortune.
She unfolded it and read out loud, voice clear as day. Lexi was spotted at a man's apartment Tuesday night.
She's a cheater. Silence.
Heavy, uncomfortable silence. Then Janelle's eyebrows shot up.
Kelsey's mouth dropped open.
And Lexi. She looked like she'd been hit with a truck. Are you serious? Kelsey finally said. This isn't random. This is specific. Lexi scrambled, words spilling out too fast.
That's fake. Obviously fake.
He made the waitress write that or something. I leaned forward, calm, resting my arms on the table.
Close.
I wrote it myself.
Her head whipped toward me. What?
You heard me, I said, smirking. I knew you'd try to turn the night into one of your little comedy shows at my expense, so I figured I'd bring receipts. Consider it the fortune you actually earned. Her friends looked at each other, half shocked, half amused. Lexi's face was red now, and she tried to laugh it off. Wow, that's so petty, Zach. You really had to pull a stunt like this.
Petty. I chuckled. No, Lexi.
Petty is you spending all night trying to embarrass me with your weak little digs.
This.
I held up my cookie.
This is art. Kelsey couldn't hold it in.
She burst out laughing, almost choking on her drink. Oh my God, Lexi, a custom fortune cookie? You can't come back from that.
Shut up.
Lexi snapped, her voice cracking. This doesn't prove anything. It's just him being manipulative. Manipulative.
I said. No, Lexi.
Manipulative is you sneaking around with Kyle while telling everyone you're too good for me.
This is just efficient.
Janelle shook her head, smiling like she couldn't believe what she just witnessed. Honestly, Lexi, he roasted you harder than I've ever seen. I thought you were joking when you called him boring. Lexi tried again, desperate. This isn't funny. You don't know what you're talking about. I leaned back, arms crossed, calm as ever.
No, we all know.
You just don't like that it's public. You wanted to humiliate me in front of your friends, and instead you're the one sitting here exposed.
You're welcome.
The best part, the waitress had timed it perfectly. She was nearby topping off waters, and I could see the little smirk she tried to hide when Kelsey read the note. She knew she'd just witnessed the highlight of her shift. Lexi looked at me, eyes wide, voice shaky. You're really just going to sit there and act like this is some big win. You embarrassed me in front of my friends. I replied, no, Lexi, you embarrassed yourself. I just gave you the mic. Her mouth opened like she wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Janelle and Kelsey weren't defending her. They were staring at her like they just realized who she really was. I adjusted my shirt, looked down at her one last time.
Thanks for dinner. That was fun.
I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and tossed enough cash on the table to cover my part and a heavy tip. On the receipt, I scribbled my number just in case the waitress ever wanted to laugh about this later. As I walked out, she slipped the fortune back into my hand like a souvenir. I tucked it in my pocket, grinning. Then I left calm, smooth, like the whole thing went exactly how I planned it because it did. Behind me, I heard Kelsey burst out laughing again, repeating, a fortune cookie. I can't believe he actually did that. And Lexi, she was left sitting there in front of the audience she craved, the star of the show she begged for. Only this time, she wasn't the glamorous lead.
She was the punchline.
And man, the fallout started quicker than I expected. I hadn't even gotten home yet before my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Lexi, you set me up. Lexi, you humiliated me in front of my friends. Lexi, do you have any idea how cruel that was? Lexi, that fortune cookie thing was psycho behavior, Zach. Nobody normal does that. I let the first dozen texts sit unread. Just watched the notifications pile up. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of an immediate response.
She wanted drama. I wanted silence.
Silence is louder than yelling. But she kept going, spamming paragraphs that flipped back and forth like she was spinning a wheel. 1 second it was, Kyle means nothing. I only hung out with him because you've been boring lately.
I needed excitement.
Then the next, you embarrassed me in front of my closest friends. Do you know how hard it will be for me to face them again? Then, you don't understand what it's like to be with someone who doesn't want more in life. You're content being average, Zach. That's why I looked elsewhere. I laughed when I read that one. Imagine cheating on someone and then blaming them for not being flashy enough while they're literally working 12-hour shifts saving lives. It was peak Lexi logic.
By midnight, she switched tactics.
Lexi, I'm sorry. I panicked. I said mean things I didn't mean. Lexi, I didn't want to hurt you.
Can we just talk?
Lexi, please just hear me out. I didn't respond because by then, my plan for the next day was already set. First thing morning, I took the day off work. Changed the locks before anything else. Then I carefully packed up every single thing she kept at my place. Clothes, shoes, makeup, that overpriced coffee machine she made me buy, even though I don't drink coffee. Folded it all neatly into boxes and set them by the door.
No mess, no drama, just efficiency. Around noon, the banging started.
Zach, open the door.
I ignored it at first. Then came the pounding again, louder.
I know you're in there.
Don't be childish.
I opened the door halfway and stood in the doorway, calm, controlled.
She looked wild.
Mascara smudged, hair frizzed, eyes red like she hadn't slept. Your stuff's in those boxes, I said, nodding toward the stack by the wall. She tried to push past me. I need to check you got everything.
I didn't move.
I got everything. Take it and go.
Her voice cracked.
We need to talk about this like adults.
I smirked.
Like how you talked about me at dinner.
Pass. Her lip trembled.
Then came the waterworks. Tears streaming, voice soft, the whole pity routine. I'm sorry, okay? I was showing off for my friends. I didn't mean the things I said. You know I don't think you're pathetic.
I tilted my head.
Which part didn't you mean exactly? The part where dating me was charity work or the part where you were sneaking around with Kyle? Be specific. She wiped her eyes, stammered.
All of it.
I was insecure. Kyle was texting me, and I didn't know how to handle it. I downloaded Tinder because I just wanted to feel wanted, but nothing happened. I raised an eyebrow. So you dress up in heels, sneak off at night, lie about conferences, and somehow end up at Kyle's apartment in the same dress, and nothing happened?
She went silent.
Couldn't even spit out a lie good enough to save herself. That's when her face twisted. The crying stopped like a switch flipped. Suddenly, it was venom instead of tears.
You know what? Fine. You're right. I did see Kyle.
And you know why? Because he actually makes an effort.
He has ambition.
He takes me places. He doesn't embarrass me just by existing.
I smiled. Cool, calm, deadly. Then date him.
Go see how long Mr. Ambition sticks around when you're not his secret. Her mouth hung open like she wasn't ready for me to say it.
Then she snapped.
You're pathetic, Zach. That's why I had to look elsewhere. You think being a nurse makes you special?
It doesn't. You're small.
You'll always be small. I stepped aside, motioned to the boxes. And you'll always be somebody else's problem. Take your stuff and leave. She glared at me, grabbed one of the boxes so hard the cardboard bent, and stormed off down the hall. Halfway down, she spun back around, eyes blazing. You'll regret this. I was the best thing that ever happened to you. I leaned on the doorframe, smirked.
No, Lexi.
You were just the loudest thing that ever happened to me. Her face twisted in rage, but she didn't have anything left to say. She stomped out of the building, box wobbling in her arms. And that was the last I saw of her that day. I shut the door behind me, locked it, and exhaled.
Peace. Actual silence.
No fake superiority, no digs, no games, just quiet. And for the first time in months, I realized I wasn't losing anything.
She was.
After that night, things moved quick. I thought Lexi might cool off and disappear, but nope. She had to try and spin it. That's just who she is. She couldn't take the L privately. She needed to rebrand it into some story where she was the victim and I was the controlling, jealous boyfriend. So word started spreading through mutual friends. According to her, I was toxic, paranoid, and insecure. She told people I'd humiliated her at dinner for no reason because I couldn't handle a confident woman. And the fortune cookie in her version, that was proof I was psycho.
Like, who even does that?
Here's the problem with her story though. It didn't stick. People remembered what she'd said at the table, how she called me charity work, how she tried to clown me in front of her own friends. And those friends, they weren't exactly loyal. Janelle and Kelsey had already spilled the play-by-play to half the office. They didn't make it flattering for Lexi either. Every time she tried to tell it her way, someone else would chime in with, "Yeah, but didn't you get exposed with Kyle's name in front of everyone?" Basically, her attempt at damage control backfired. Instead of me looking insecure, She looked like the girl who got roasted by her boyfriend and then outed by a fortune cookie at her own dinner.
And people love a story like that.
By the end of the week, half her circle was cracking jokes about it. She didn't help herself either. She doubled down on Instagram, posting pictures with Kyle at the exact same restaurants she used to drag me to. Captions like "finally matched energy" and "leveling up." Thing is, when you oversell like that, people can smell the desperation.
The likes were thin.
The comments were mostly her coworkers hyping her out of pity. And then, predictably, Kyle bailed. It only took a couple weeks before I started hearing things. A buddy of mine who had connections at her agency texted me. "Dude, Kyle's already bragging about seeing other girls. Lexi's just one of the rotation." And another time, Janelle messaged me directly, saying, "You'll love this. Kyle showed up to happy hour with another girl while Lexi was still posting about him. She looked like she wanted to die."
I wasn't surprised.
Kyle screamed player from the jump. Lexi thought she was upgrading, but all she did was sign up for being another name in his phone. And when it clicked for her that she wasn't special, that was another L she couldn't spin. Meanwhile, I was just good.
Work was steady.
My phone was quieter without her constant drama. I wasn't being criticized for my car, my clothes, my schedule.
The weight was gone.
A few days after the dinner, I got a message I didn't expect. It was from Becca, the waitress who helped me with the cookie setup. She just wrote, "Hey, just wanted to check in. Hope you're doing okay after all that." At first, I wasn't sure if I should reply, but she'd been decent that night. And honestly, she didn't owe me anything. So I texted back, "Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks again for helping out." That note was a lifesaver. She sent a laughing emoji. I've seen a lot working here, but that was next level.
You stayed calm the whole time.
Most guys would have blown up. We ended up chatting for a bit. Nothing heavy, nothing flirty at first, just normal conversation. She asked about my job, and I found myself telling her about a tough shift earlier that week. Instead of tuning out, she actually asked follow-up questions. She wanted to hear about patients, about what I liked about nursing. Nobody had ever called it interesting before. Lexi used to roll her eyes if I even mentioned my work.
Becca, she thought it was admirable.
Over the next couple weeks, we talked more. Sometimes it was just quick check-ins, sometimes longer conversations after her shifts. Eventually, we grabbed coffee one afternoon. Not a date exactly, just two people hanging out. She was easy to talk to, funny in a way that didn't feel forced. And best of all, she didn't care about image. She cared about people. We didn't jump into anything serious right away. Honestly, I didn't want to, but it felt good to have someone around who saw value in character instead of clout. She liked that I was steady, that I wasn't trying to put on a show. And Lexi, she faded into the background. Every now and then, someone would mention her. Usually, another story about Kyle ditching her, or how she was trying to act unbothered online while clearly falling apart. I didn't care. That was her mess to deal with. The only thing I kept from the whole ordeal was the slip of paper from the fortune cookie. I framed it. Actually, some people think that's weird, but to me, it's a reminder. A reminder that sometimes you don't need to scream, fight, or get dramatic to win. Sometimes the best revenge is quiet, controlled exposure. Lexi wanted to be the star. She wanted the audience.
She got it.
And she made herself the punchline. Now I've got peace and maybe something new brewing with someone who actually gives a damn about who I am, not how I look on her Instagram feed.